back to back.
Logan Paul just got in Rob Gronkowski's face at the Fanatics draft and screamed he'd beat him and all his brothers just after Gronk called him a flake on national TV for ducking $1 million fight. What pushed these two to the breaking point, and is this heading straight to WrestleMania? Let's get into it. It started with one word: cute. Now, before we get into the specifics of what went down, and trust me, the specifics are absolutely wild, we need to rewind. We need to go back to mid-February 2026, to Super Bowl week, to a moment that most people probably didn't think twice about at the time, but which, in retrospect, was the first domino in an increasingly unhinged chain reaction that would consume the sports internet for the better part of a month. It happened when Tom Brady, the GOAT, the 7-time Super Bowl champion, the man who retired and then came back and then retired again, appeared as a guest on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast, roughly episode 492. The whole thing was supposed to be a promotional conversation, a bit of lighthearted banter between two larger-than-life figures who were both set to participate in the upcoming Fanatics Flag Football Classic, a celebrity and NFL alumni flag football tournament originally planned for Saudi Arabia before being relocated to Los Angeles. The vibe was supposed to be collegial, maybe even fun. It was, to put it as politely as possible, absolutely none of those things. Logan, being Logan, started hyping himself up. He was positioning himself as a legitimate top-tier athlete, and he brought up his WWE credentials to prove it. At one point, asking Brady whether NFL stars like Saquon Barkley could pull off a flip from the top rope of a wrestling ring. It was a flex, and Brady, 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady, looked him dead in the face and dismantled it with a smile.
I'm actually a little worried for you, because I know
Worried for me?
Well, you're a good athlete, but you're like,
No.
These guys are at another level.
And Logan, to his credit, did not back down. Not even a little. He fired right back, insisting that he was the level, that he was the standard.
I am the highest level. I am the level.
No, you're not the level.
And then, right there, in the middle of Logan's own show, on Logan's own microphone, in front of Logan's own audience, Brady dropped the bomb. The word that would set off an entire month of escalating warfare between a YouTuber turned WWE superstar and the most decorated quarterback in the history of professional football.
Cute. It's a great, I love WWE. It's very cute.
Cute. He called it cute twice. And the thing is, Brady didn't say it with malice or with venom. He said it with a grin. He said it like a father watching a toddler try to dunk on a Fisher-Price basketball hoop. And somehow, that made it infinitely worse. Because there is no more devastating weapon in the English language than being condescended to by someone who genuinely believes they are better than you and has the resume to back it up. And just in case there was any ambiguity about what he meant, any sliver of a chance that Logan could interpret this as a compliment, Brady followed it up with a clear line in the sand between what he considered real competition and whatever it was that Logan did for a living.
But honestly, this is like real football. This is real competition.
That right there was the fracture point. That was the exact moment the tectonic plates shifted, because Logan Paul, and this is something you need to understand about Logan Paul if you're going to understand anything about what happened next. Logan Paul does not let things slide. He does not shrug things off. He does not move on quietly. That is fundamentally not how he is wired. And Brady, either knowingly or because he simply could not help himself, didn't just let the podcast appearance speak for itself. No, he doubled down. He went to Sports Illustrated and he poured gasoline on a fire that was already burning hot enough to melt steel. In that separate interview, he was quoted saying, "All their stuff is so cute and scripted, and they know what's going on. In a football game, you don't know. There's no fake BS we do in American football." He even went as far as to say that if he had a good offensive line, those linemen would punch those guys right in the throat and they'd probably be crying. Let me repeat that. Tom Brady, on the record, said WWE wrestlers would be crying if they had to face NFL linemen. The disrespect was not subtle. It was not veiled. It was a wrecking ball aimed directly at Logan Paul's entire professional identity. So Logan responded. On a subsequent episode of Impulsive, he addressed Brady's comments head on, flipping the script entirely by calling football cute from a boxer's perspective, arguing that in many ways football is also cute because I'm a boxer and you can put most NFL players and basketball players in a ring and they'll get their asses kicked by real boxers. He called himself more athletic than Brady. He said he was faster, younger, bigger in the ways that mattered, and that if any of these football players wanted to prove something, they could step into a ring and find out what real competition actually looked like. But Logan wasn't done, not by a long shot, because around the first week of March, approximately March 3rd, 2026, Brady decided that calling Logan's career cute and scripted simply wasn't enough. He needed to go further. He needed to make it personal in a way that couldn't be laughed off or spun into content. He posted a workout video on Instagram with none other than Rob Gronkowski, his longtime teammate, his partner in crime, his ride or die, the man who caught touchdowns from Brady for the better part of a decade. And in the middle of that training clip, while they were both dripping sweat and throwing around weights, Brady turned to the camera and said, without an ounce of hesitation, without a flicker of irony, "Logan Paul is a beast. Just say he's a beast. Come play with the big boys. You're lucky you won't get hit." And if you watch that clip, and I strongly encourage you to, you can see Gronk in the background looking visibly stunned at how far Brady just went. Even Gronk, a man who has never in his life been accused of restraint or subtlety, seemed taken aback by the savagery of that moment. Now, let's be very clear about what just happened. Tom Brady, arguably the most famous athlete in American history, used a slur on camera in a produced video posted to his own social media to describe Logan Paul. This was not a slip. This was not a hot mic. This was a calculated, deliberate, filmed, and edited provocation. And it worked because that clip, that single, incendiary, profanity-laced, deliberately provocative clip, is what pushed Logan Paul over the edge and directly into the most explosive chapter of this entire saga, the $1 Million Challenge. $1 million, a ducked fight, and the biggest crap of all time. Less than 24 hours after Tom Brady called him a on camera, Logan Paul sat down behind the microphones of his Impulsive podcast on March 4th, 2026, and he did what Logan Paul does best. He escalated, dramatically, loudly, and with real, tangible, put your money where your mouth is cash on the table. He didn't just respond to Brady. He didn't just clap back with some witty one-liner or a sarcastic tweet. No, Logan Paul responded to every single person who had ever worn an NFL jersey and thought, even for a fraction of a second, that they were tougher than him. He responded to every retired lineman, every active cornerback, every practice squad walk-on who had ever looked at a YouTube star and scoffed. He opened the floodgates entirely. He issued a blanket, open, standing, no exceptions, come one, come all, $1 million boxing challenge to any football player in America, past, present, active, retired, Pro Bowl or not, it did not matter. $1 million. Cash. Come to the gym, lace up the gloves, and find out what happens when you step into a ring with a man who went the distance with Floyd Mayweather. And this wasn't just talk. This was Logan Paul on his own show, in front of millions of viewers, naming names, calling people out individually, starting with the claim that not a single football player on earth could beat him.
Not a single one.
Name one.
Not a single one.
Nah, don't do all that, bro.
I would put any amount of money that you could put.
And when his co-host threw out the name Myles Garrett, the Cleveland Browns defensive end who stands 6'4", weighs 272 pounds, and looks like he was genetically engineered in a laboratory specifically designed to terrify every quarterback in the AFC North, Logan did not even flinch. He didn't pause. He didn't reconsider. He leaned into the microphone and said it without blinking.
Myles Garrett.
That is on God.
Myles Garrett?
I would throttle Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett.
He said he would throttle Myles Garrett out loud on a recorded podcast with a straight face. And then, just to make sure nobody misunderstood the scope of what he was offering, he laid out the terms in the clearest possible language.
Doesn't matter. $1 million. $1 million. You come to the gym, we put on boxing gloves, we see how it goes.
$1 million. Boxing gloves, the gym, any NFL player on the planet. That was the offer, put out there for the entire world to see. A gauntlet thrown down in front of every man who had ever strapped on a helmet and thought that made him tough. And someone actually took it. Former Pittsburgh Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell, who, it should be noted, was not some random retired player looking for a payday, but a legitimate, trained, experienced boxer carrying a 2-1 professional record, including a knockout victory over Adrian Peterson, publicly accepted via social media and direct messages. This was not a hypothetical anymore. This was not podcast bravado or social media posturing. By March 6th, just 2 days after Logan's challenge, the two had agreed to detailed, specific, put-it-in-writing terms. 10-ounce gloves, no headgear, 3-minute rounds, fight until somebody says, "I quit," or gets knocked out. $1 million each deposited in escrow. No judges, you pick the referee, and a target date of the following weekend. This was, by every appearance, a done deal. Logan even posted publicly that Bell was 99.9% sure how it was going to end, implying his own dominant victory. And then, in what can only be described as one of the most spectacular reversals in recent sports entertainment memory, within roughly 48 to 72 hours of the terms being agreed upon, the fight was dead, over, gone, vanished into the ether. During a live stream tied to his Rip It energy drink brand, Logan received an on-air call from a WWE executive, widely reported to be a high-level official close to Triple H himself. The message was unambiguous. WWE would not allow the fight. WrestleMania season was fast approaching, the injury risk was deemed unacceptable, and Logan Paul, now a full-time WWE superstar under a new contract signed earlier in 2026, was simply too valuable an asset to risk in an unsanctioned boxing match. Logan's public explanation was that he just lost out on $2 million, the $1 million side bet plus potential upside, and that he had to honor his professional commitments. "I have a job and I committed to wrestling," he said, framing it as responsibility rather than retreat. Le'Veon Bell, as you might imagine, was absolutely furious. He was not buying a single syllable of it. He accused Logan of ducking, claimed the actual fight contract was never sent despite the public back and forth, and posted multiple call-outs on social media, screaming, "Stop ducking," and demanding that Logan stop hiding behind his employer. The word duck, that devastating, career-defining accusation in combat sports, was now permanently attached to Logan Paul's name. But the person who was angriest of all, the person who took Logan's retreat and turned it into a full-blown public humiliation campaign, was Rob Gronkowski. And he did it on live television. On the March 10th episode of FanDuel TV's Up and Adams with Kay Adams, filmed at TPC Sawgrass ahead of the Players' Championship, Gronk was asked about the Logan Paul situation, and what followed was one of the most unfiltered, aggressive, gloriously entertaining 3-minute rants in the history of sports television. He started by addressing the Le'Veon Bell fallout directly.
"Yeah, well, I saw Logan just duck Le'Veon Bell. They were supposed to fight."
He said it plainly. Ducked. That's the word he used. And then he went further, laying out what he saw as the obvious fakery of the entire WWE excuse.
They were supposed to put $1 million each in escrow. And Logan Paul had the WWE owner call him and say, "Oh, you can't do it, Logan Paul. What if you get hurt?"
And Gronk made it crystal clear that he wasn't buying any of it. Not the call, not the excuse, not the performance of disappointment.
He should have just came out and said, "Actually, I don't want to do it."
That line alone would have been devastating enough. But Gronk was just warming up. Because what came next was the quote that set the entire internet on fire, the 7 words that turned a podcast segment into a trending topic and sent the sports world into a frenzy.
Like, that's the biggest crap of all time.
The biggest crap of all time. From a Hall of Fame caliber tight end on national television, directed squarely at Logan Paul, and Gronk wasn't done. He made it personal, calling Logan exactly what the situation demanded.
I mean, you don't just call people out and then it happens and then you back out. Like, that just shows that he's a flake. And on top of it,
A flake. That's the label Gronk stamped on Logan Paul in front of the cameras for the world to hear. But here's where the segment went from entertaining to historic. Because Gronkowski didn't just trash Logan, he issued a direct, personal, on-the-record challenge to settle it face-to-face on the flag football field.
But if Logan Paul wants a piece of me, we're both playing in the flag football game on March 21st in LA.
He said it with the kind of energy you'd expect from a man who had spent his entire NFL career trucking defensive backs and sending linebackers into early retirement. And then he went even further, reminding the audience and Logan of exactly who they were dealing with.
You know, I threw someone out of the club, I broke necks, I laid out defensive ends, I pummeled safeties, no one can tackle me. So if Logan Paul wants a piece of me, I'm down to throw it down on the field.
And then the punctuation mark. The cherry on top of what was already the most explosive sports television segment of 2026. That segment went viral instantly.
Nothing says gentleman-y vibes here at TPC Sawgrass like I'll whip his ass.
Every major outlet, Yahoo Sports, Fox News, The New York Post, Bleacher Report, quoted the same lines verbatim the next day. And this is the exact moment, the precise on-air escalation that transformed weeks of podcast trash talk into what would become a physical face-to-face showdown 8 days later. All hell breaks loose at the Waldorf Astoria. Now, to fully understand why the confrontation that went viral this week hit so hard, you need to understand one more layer of history between these two. A layer that goes back 5 years to 2021, when Logan Paul was preparing to step into the ring against Floyd Mayweather Jr. While training for that exhibition bout, Logan arranged a sparring session with 4 of Rob Gronkowski's brothers, Glenn, Chris, Dan, and Gordy Jr. He uploaded the footage to YouTube in a video titled, "I boxed 4 people at the same time." The brothers had roughly 24 hours of notice and a single crash course training session from Hall of Famers Winky Wright and Antonio Tarver. Rob himself was still an active NFL tight end with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the time, fresh off a Super Bowl win, so he refereed instead of fighting. And Logan, to put it bluntly, dominated. He outboxed every single one of them, landing clean shots, rocking several of them, and forcing Rob to intervene and pull him off when things got too one-sided. It was a sparring session, not a professional fight, but the optics were devastating. And Logan made sure everyone remembered it, saying directly in a TMZ interview, "I sparred all of the Gronkowski brothers minus Rob. Rob got Super Bowls to win. He can't get hurt, you know, but he put his brothers on the line instead of him." That quote, "he put his brothers on the line instead of him," has been a splinter under Gronkowski's skin ever since. And when Gronk fired back on Up and Adams, he addressed it head on.
Well, I didn't step in that ring that time when he fought my brothers, because I was actually in the middle of playing, in the NFL. And
fast forward to March 18th, 2026, the Waldorf Astoria Beverly Hills, the Fanatics Flag Football Classic Draft, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, a chandeliered ballroom filled with NFL alumni, celebrities, media, and hundreds of fans with their phones already recording. Gronkowski was there as a team captain alongside Tom Brady, Logan Paul was there as a participant, and Kevin Hart was there as a co-host, which, as it turns out, was a very fortunate thing for everyone involved. After weeks of escalating trash talk, Brady's cute dismissal, the bitch workout video, the $1 Million Challenge, the Le'Veon Bell fallout, and Gronk's thermonuclear response on Up and Adams, all of these men were now standing in the same room, breathing the same air, with cameras rolling from every conceivable angle. The tension was, to borrow a word, palpable, and then it happened. Right after the draft proceedings, Gronkowski and Logan Paul found themselves face to face in the middle of that crowded ballroom. According to multiple reports and the viral clip itself, Logan, blonde hair, black tank top, sunglasses, gold chain, got directly in Gronk's face. Gronk, white polo, backward white built cap, did not move an inch. And Logan Paul shouted at the top of his lungs the line that would be replayed millions of times over the next 72 hours. "I'm gonna beat your A and all your brothers' A's." He was pointing. He was animated. His mouth was wide open, and every syllable was delivered like a man who had spent the last month building up to this exact moment. Gronk fired right back. His mouth was open, his finger was pointing, and reports confirm he shouted defiantly amid the chaos, pushing back on every word Logan threw at him. Multiple F-bombs were exchanged, the crowd was erupting, people were climbing on, chairs to film. And right in the middle of this tornado of testosterone and profanity stood Kevin Hart, 5-foot-something Kevin Hart, wedged between 2 men who outweighed him by a combined 100+ pounds, clapping his hands, pushing them apart with both arms, yelling for them to save it for the field. Other attendees, security, friends, staff, quickly swarmed in to help, guiding Logan and Gronk to opposite sides of the room. No punches were thrown, no physical contact was made beyond the shoving of bodies in close proximity. It was pure verbal chaos, and it was diffused before it could become anything worse. But the clip was already everywhere. Within hours, that shaky 30-second handheld video had exploded across X, Instagram Reels, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts. The Fanatics official channels pushed it aggressively. Mainstream outlets, Newsweek, Yahoo Sports, Page 6, wrestling sites like 411 Mania ran full stories. And Kevin Hart's accidental starring role as the world's smallest peacemaker became its own viral moment, with fans writing things like "not Kevin Hart getting caught in the middle" and comparing him to a referee in a Godzilla vs. King Kong standoff. Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin spoke to Page 6 after the event and could barely contain his delight. He was quoted saying, "I've got to be honest, I've never been to a draft where I laughed so hard. I thought Logan Paul and Gronkowski were just going to kill each other a few minutes ago. We're going to need extra security around those guys." He also added that after the game on Saturday, he was going to make them drink a couple shots each, make up, and be friends again. And that brings us to the elephant in the room, the question that virtually every single person watching this unfold has been asking from the very beginning. Is any of this real? The honest, nuanced answer is, it's complicated. The footage is authentic. The shouting happened. The words were spoken. Nobody disputes that. But the overwhelming consensus, across comments on every platform and even in media coverage itself, is that this is classic sports entertainment promotional theater. Logan Paul is a full-time WWE superstar. Gronk is a frequent WWE guest who once held the 24/7 championship. Tom Brady is a media mogul and close friend of Michael Rubin. Fanatics, the company behind the entire flag football event, has a long history of engineering viral moments to sell tickets and drive engagement. One reporter from the LA Times called all the involved beefs as fake as plant-based meat and so much fun. Bro Bible ran a piece titled, "Are Tom Brady and Logan Paul really beefing? Of course not." Fan comments across the board include phrases like stage bullshit, creating hype, and Michael Rubin WWE bullshit for show. And yet, and this is what makes the whole thing so brilliant, the fact that it might be staged doesn't make it any less entertaining. That's the magic of what these people do. Whether the hatred is genuine or manufactured, millions of people watched, millions of people shared, and millions of people will tune in when the Fanatics Flag Football Classic kicks off. Brady himself, in a recent appearance on The Tonight Show, even appeared to tip his hand, revealing that NFL players had been coming to him with threats against Logan and that he had to tell them, guys, chill out. We're not committing any crimes against Logan.
These NFL players are like, and then I had all these guys come to me and go, I'm gonna, and I'm like, guys, chill out. We're not committing any crimes against Logan Paul.
That's Tom Brady, the same man who called Logan a bitch on camera, now playing the voice of reason. If that doesn't scream carefully choreographed entertainment, nothing does. But here's the thing, real or not, the story isn't over, not even close. Multiple outlets, including Awful Announcing, have speculated that this entire beef may be leading to a match at WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas, potentially a tag team affair featuring Logan Paul against Gronk, with Brady involved in some capacity. The pieces are all there: Logan's WWE contract, Gronk's wrestling history, Brady's Las Vegas Raiders connections, and Rubin's willingness to blur every line between sports and entertainment. Whether the next chapter plays out on a flag football field, inside a wrestling ring, or in another ballroom with Kevin Hart desperately trying to keep the peace, one thing is absolutely certain: we have not seen the last of this.